In today's episode, I'm previewing Week 8 in the NBA. Michael Bolton.
Thanks, Josh. It's Michael Bolton here, and it's time for another episode of the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast. Let's get to it.
Let's get to it, indeed.
You are Locked On Fantasy Basketball, your daily fantasy basketball podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast, brought to you by Basketball Monster. My name is Josh Lloyd and I am the lead fantasy analyst at basketballmonster.com and at Yahoo Sports Australia. And you can find me on Twitter as always at redrock_bball and on Instagram at Locked On Fantasy Basketball. We're here to look at Week 8, what the schedule looks like, how to stream, back-to-backs, players to watch, players to add, players to sit. Let's talk about it right now. First off, how does the week look? Well, 20 teams play 4 games and 10 teams play 3 games. So a pretty nice schedule. A lot of games being played. With the more teams that play 4 games during a week, the harder decisions you have to make, often with start and sits, because it means that below average players playing 4 games, there's more of those guys out there, which might be able to take some value away from those guys who are better but play only 3 games. So the more teams that play 4 games, the harder decisions you often have to make. 20 is about normal. Sometimes you'll get 18 or 16. It's when you get to like 23, 24 where there's harder decisions. So it's about an average sort of week, I would suggest here for the NBA. How does that week break down? Well, it is an interesting week. And in theory, you could potentially stream every day. Now, Friday, probably not. There's definitely 4 stream days. And let's talk about how the schedule looks. We've got 8 games on Monday, 7 on Tuesday, 9 on Wednesday, 5 on Thursday, 11 on Friday, 5 on Saturday, 10 on Sunday. For those of you who are new and don't know what streaming is, it just means adding a player for one game and then dropping him and then adding a player the next day for another game and then dropping him and then adding a player and maximizing the worst roster spot on your team just by churning through players into that spot. Not just adding someone and holding them for the whole week, making the most out of how many acquisitions you get for the week and using that spot. But if it's a day with a lot of games on, say Friday when there's 11 games on, if you add someone on that day, you might already have 10 players playing, so they don't have any use. So you'd add a player on that day and they'd sit on your bench. Absolutely no point in that. So on Friday, that's definitely not going to be a stream day. Sunday, probably not as well, which is disappointing because we always love to stream on that last day of a weekly matchup. There's 10 games on Sunday, so probably can't stream then. And Wednesday is the iffy one. Normally, to me, 8 and under is a day that you stream. 9 and above is hard. But that's on 9 on Wednesday, so there could be some streaming. It really just depends on how your roster's set up. So you might be able to stream the first 4 days of this week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. To keep it relatively general, I'll say that the streaming days we're looking at are Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday, with a guarantee of streaming on Thursday and Saturday, and a pretty good likelihood of Tuesday and Monday, and then maybe Sunday, maybe Wednesday. But that just depends on how your roster looks, how everything's set up, and you can check that out yourself. Go to look at what Wednesday looks like for you next week. How many active players, how many guys do you have playing games? Do you have 8 guys playing? Do you have 11 guys playing? And that will be the decision that you need to make in terms of your streaming for the week. So, which teams are good at streaming? That's a very good question. We've got a couple of teams really standing out. Now, on the graphic here, I forgot to include one team. The Houston Rockets have 4 quality games this week, as do the Golden State Warriors. So, any Warriors or Rockets player that you add, which is actually great news for Rockets especially, you can play them every one of their games, because their games this week fall on Monday, Tuesday, Thursday and Saturday, the days that we're looking at streaming for both of those teams. So we know that DeMarcus Cousins with Christian Wood out, there's great value there. The wild thing, Jayshawn Tate, love it. Great ad for him. Eric Gordon, tremendous value. Daniel House, you can play him every game. Sterling Brown, maybe? David Nwaba, if he's back. There's some weird value. PJ Tucker, who's not a great fantasy player, but if you can play him 4 games this week with 1 acquisition on Monday, that's pretty good value. And the same goes with the Warriors. How about the big fella, Juan Toscano Anderson? You could stream him in and use him. Damian Lee. Maybe you look at Brad Wanamaker. There's value there of guys who you wouldn't normally consider, but the fact that you're able to use them 4 times this week for one acquisition is pretty good. The Sixers and the Heat, don't look at their week and go, they only play 3 games, because it's when, in daily changes leagues, it's when those games are played that's most important, and Philadelphia and Miami play all of their games on low volume days. So you might be pissed off with Seth Curry because of his performance, understandably, but this week he can be played 3 times. Same with Shake Milton. Yeah, same with Furkan Korkmaz in deeper leagues. For the Heat, and we're going to talk about the difference here with the Heat a bit later on. But Kendrick Nunn with Goran Dragic banged up. Maybe he's an option. Duncan Robinson will be a great option because you can use him 3 times this week. Kelly Olynyk back in action with 3 games this week. Or 3 usable games this week. Most of the other teams have either 2 or 1 quality game, but I wanted to point out the Los Angeles Clippers. The Clippers don't play again till Wednesday. I know Paul George is out. They don't play till Wednesday, but they play on all of the high volume days. So while Reggie Jackson's taking the place of Patrick Beverley, Luke Kennard is starting in place of Paul George, Nick Batum, Marcus Morris, Ivica Zubac. They've all got value in terms of streamability. But if you add those players for this week, you probably don't use them at all on those 3 days. So look, if you've got Reggie Jackson, while the value for him has been shit the last couple of games, but good the ones before that, you don't play on the first 2 days. You might not play him on the Wednesday or the Friday or the Sunday. So Kennard, Jackson, Morris, Batum, not Batum probably, but Zubac, you're going to be better off dropping them in most cases and getting players in that actually play. This is for daily changes league. So that is super important to realize that. Very important. And I think I've stressed that point enough. Let's look at back-to-backs. 20 teams have a back-to-back this week, and that includes the Sunday to Monday and then the Sunday to Monday at the end of the week, because that's important to note as well. Because it's not just about the week in which you play. You've got that Sunday, Monday leading in, and then the Sunday, Monday leading out where players and teams can rest, which I think is important to be able to note. So 20 teams have back-to-backs. 4 teams have 2 back-to-backs. The Washington Wizards, the New York Knicks, the Phoenix Suns, and the Sacramento Kings. Where is that important? Well, it's super important for the Wizards because Russell Westbrook sits back-to-backs. So Sunday, Monday, so leading into the week, Westbrook's probably going to sit on that Monday against the Bulls, so he probably doesn't play. He plays Wednesday, plays Friday, and then they have another back-to-back on the Sunday, and then the Monday leading into Week 9. So you'd expect Westbrook sits the Monday leading into Week 9 against the Rockets, but maybe he sits the Sunday. There's a chance you get 2 Russell Westbrook games instead of 3. Well, the team plays 4 this week, but you could get 2 Westbrook games. Probably 3. The Knicks with the Suns and the Kings, no real worries with those guys in terms of back-to-backs and players resting. The ones we have to watch with, we don't have to watch with Dallas anymore with Porzingis. But we do need to watch these teams. The Wizards, of course, with Westbrook. The Rockets with both Wall and Oladipo. The Celtics with Kemba Walker. He's going to miss a game. The Nets I'm including there because KD sometimes sits, sometimes doesn't. Kyrie can sometimes be a risk there as well, so watch that. And then Detroit with Blake Griffin and Derrick Rose. They're probably the only players who we have left at the moment who sit on those back-to-backs regularly. You might have players when they retire. Al Horford with the Thunder is another one, but I'm not sure if that'll be an ongoing thing. But they don't even have a back-to-back coming up this week. Embiid doesn't regularly sit back-to-backs. There might be some guys that do return from injury in the coming weeks that do have to sit some. But these are the major teams that we have to worry about in that regard. Let's look at how we can stream in. Well, look at how your matchup goes for this week, but you can add a player to take on the Sunday for your last day of the matchup who also plays on Monday for the start of Week 8. And the 3 teams who have that combination are the Wizards, the Hornets, and the Suns. Alex Len, I'm going to talk about him a lot in today's show. He seems to be the center of choice there. He's a great ad, especially for that start of the week. The Hornets, hard to know what the hell they're doing with some of their stuff with the way they played Miles Bridges last game, but Miles Bridges is a good option. He's an option for us to stream in. The Suns, starting power forward Frank Kaminsky. God, lucky there wasn't a recap show yesterday. I would have just shit on Monty Williams in a huge amount. But do you stream Frank Kaminsky in as the starting power forward? Ugh, it's so disgusting, but maybe. Monday, Tuesday, the Rockets and the Warriors. We've talked about them already, about how they've got the great streaming week. Tuesday, Thursday, we start with the Rockets and the Warriors. We've got the Celtics with the Tuesday. And Tuesday, Thursday is not a back-to-back, obviously, because those games are back-to-back. But because Wednesday is a higher volume day, if you add someone on the Tuesday, you might not play them on the Wednesday, or might not need anyone to play on the Wednesday. Again, look at your roster and look at your schedule. And then you can use them on the Thursday. So we're looking at the Celtics, looking at the Heat, looking at the Blazers, looking at the Pistons, the Magic, and the Sixers have that Tuesday-Thursday combination. And then we've got the Rockets and the Warriors as per usual. We've got the Pacers, we've got the Heat, and we've got the Sixers. So there's quite a bit of value. TJ McConnell on that Thursday, Saturday, awesome. Doug McDermott, awesome. Miami, we've spoken about already. Kendrick Nunn, we talked about Philadelphia already. For Detroit, you're looking, for that Tuesday, Thursday, you're looking at Josh Jackson, maybe Isaiah Stewart in that mix as well. You could stream in Blake Griffin. Orlando, you're looking at a Kem Birch, a James Ennis, Terrence Ross if he was dropped, Cole Anthony, who should be rostered regardless. Let's look at weekly players to add for category leagues for weekly ads. I think Alex Len's an ad for this week. I think that you can add him. The Wizards have 4 games, and you might get value out of him. I think the wild thing, Jay Sean Tate, is an ad. With Christian Wood out, Tate's going to play some backup center. He's the starting small forward. He's really, really likable. He's in. Rob Williams. We know Daniel Tice is dealing with a sore knee. I think he'll be fine. But Williams, 4 games, say that's 65 minutes. Maybe in 4 games, it's 7 blocks, 6 blocks, 85% from the field. There's enough value in him if you need those categories for him to be an option. And then Taylor Horton-Tucker. The Lakers have 4 games. So Horton-Tucker can be a player that we add for the week. Now, I didn't go through and tell you which teams play 4, which teams play 3 this week. You can check that out on Basketball Monster. It's easy to find that information rather than me just rattling off names. Taylor Horton-Tucker is a guy that is in the rotation. He's pushing up into the rotation. He's stealing minutes from everyone. And you might get 80, 85 minutes out of him this week. Which, remember, if a player is playing 3 games for the week and they're a 30-minute-a-night player, they play 90 games. Or 90, they play 90 minutes. If you are a 4-game guy, you just need to play 22, 23 minutes, and you've already got the same amount of playing time. And I think Horton-Tucker can be that player. For points leagues, these are guys rostered in under 50% of leagues who I think nearly all the top 2 I would have rostered regardless. But Cole Anthony and Darius Baisley, 4 games this week for each of those guys. They should be rostered regardless, but they're guys you can add and start this week. Alex Len, who I've already touched on. And then Farton Will Barton. Malone is starting him. He's not great, but with 4 games on and the minutes that he's getting, he's worth a look in a points league. In a category league, we're looking at players to sit. Blunty. Now, I just talked about the Warriors having this great schedule for daily changes leagues with their 4 streaming days. And they do have 4 games, but I expect I expect Wiseman to play just 2 of those games. So there's no point in starting him. Marvin Bagley and the Kings, they have 3 games this week. He's not very good anyway, but if you've got him, you sit him. DeAndre Jordan and the Nets have 3 games, and Duncan Robinson and the Heat have 3 games. So that's what I talked about before with the Heat. Awesome schedule for them for daily changes leagues. All 3 days, all 3 games, low volume days, you can get 3 games out of them. In a weekly league, it doesn't matter what days those games are on. So it comes down to volume. And if Duncan Robinson's playing 3 and these guys from the Bucks and from the Cavs and from the Wizards are playing 4, then they're not as valuable. The Duncan Robinson and the Heat players aren't as valuable, so you can sit him. In a points league, you're sitting Wiseman, Robinson, Bagley again. And then I think Jordan Clarkson could be an option to sit in a points league as well. The Jazz just play the 3 games. All 3 are at home. But with only 23, 24 minutes a night, that's 75 minutes across the week for Clarko. He's been really good, but I think we can find better players to start into your active 10 spots. In deep leagues, players that we're looking to add for the week, 3 Mavericks players I'm looking at: Dorian Finney-Smith, Maxi Kleber, and Jalen Brunson, the burner. These are 14 to 16 team league guys. I would add those guys. I think they've got value to start this week. And then Derek Jones Jr. of the Portland Trail Blazers should be back with his foot problem, and he is a guy that in deep leagues I'd look to start for the week. Guys, that'll do it for today's Week 8 NBA preview. I'll be back later on today with a what to watch for Sunday's games. Don't forget to check that out. And if you want to see my recaps, which I don't do for Saturdays, but I do write recaps over on basketballmonster.com if you're a member over there. So you can check them out over there, guys. We are done here. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. See ya.